I think that Trump has already been defeated. The Israeli regime has already been defeated. By foolishly carrying out this war, they gave Iran the opportunity to take the Strait of Hormuz. And that changes the balance of power across the region and literally across the world.
Welcome back to Floor Leader Insider, your home for the truth that usually stays buried behind closed doors. Now, let's be real for a second. The situation in the Middle East isn't just heating up. It's reaching a total boiling point, and the people in DC are looking more lost by the second. In this clip, we're breaking down a conversation that should honestly be required viewing for everyone in the country. George Galloway is sitting down with Professor Mohammed Marandi, and let me tell you, they aren't pulling any punches. We're talking about a supposed U.S. blockade that's essentially a paper tiger. Iranian tankers are sailing right past it while our own global economy takes the hit. And wait until you hear the part about JD Vance, basically reporting to Netanyahu during negotiations. I mean, seriously, who is actually running the show here? We're also diving into the general summer strategy, a move so brutal it could collapse entire regimes in a matter of weeks. The floor leaders in Washington are out here playing checkers, while the rest of the world has already moved to 3D chess. Let's get straight into the heart of this exposure. Before we start, please make sure to like and subscribe, as it really helps for the growth of the channel.
Professor, thanks for joining us again. On the face of it, this is an auspicious moment. If you believe that some unknown general in Pakistan is the reason why Trump has called an indefinite ceasefire, well, you definitely wouldn't be a student of yours or mine. I'm not sure who believes it, least of all the general or the field marshal in Pakistan. But he does say he's keeping up the blockade. Although the last time I looked, there's one hell of a lot of oil tankers evading that blockade. It's difficult to know whether to laugh or cry. What say you, Professor?
Well, George, it's a great honor always being on your show, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be here right now, as I always am. You're right. It seems as if the Americans are unable to impose a blockade, and that large numbers of Iranian ships are moving back and forth. Meanwhile, because of the blockade, the Iranians have prevented the ships that were agreed upon to leave the Strait of the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz from doing so. So we had a ceasefire, and Netanyahu undermined the ceasefire by carrying out huge airstrikes, across Lebanon, carpet bombing, and killing hundreds of people within minutes, because this monster just wanted to wreck the ceasefire. And because of that, Iran said, well, if he's going to violate the ceasefire, which the Prime Minister of Pakistan acknowledged was a part of the ceasefire, then Iran is not going to allow the ships from these 5 countries that are considered to be hostile because they participated in the war against Iran: Kuwait, Bahrain, the Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. Iran was supposed to, in accordance with this ceasefire, to allow some of the ships to get through. Then the Iranians said, well, as long as Netanyahu is not going to abide by the ceasefire, we're not letting any of these ships leave. So it took 10 days to force Netanyahu to accept the ceasefire, even though he's still killing people in Lebanon, just as he does in Gaza every day. But then the Iranians said, okay, the ceasefire's in place. We will now allow these ships, because the Strait of Hormuz was open. It was open to Iraqi ships, Chinese ships, Russian ships, and of course, Iranian ships. So the Iranians said, in accordance with our agreement, now that the ceasefire has been, obligations have been fulfilled, we'll allow the ships to go through. Then Trump said, fine, great, but I'm going to keep my siege on Iranian ports and the Persian Gulf in place. Because of that, Iran reversed its decision. So Trump and Netanyahu have for 2 weeks blocked the world from being able to get fuel, oil, LNG, and petrochemicals and fertilizers from the Persian Gulf. Whereas the Iranians, until just a few days ago, they were exporting and importing as usual. And for the last few days since the American siege, by all accounts, the Iranians continue to export and import. So U.S. policy is so foolish and so idiotic that they are harming the world, but they're failing to bring about the sort of harm that they want to impose on the Iranian people.
Now, he says that the Iranian government is fractured, and that that's one of the reasons why he's extending indefinitely the ceasefire. If any government were fractured, well, I'm thinking of all the Western governments right at this moment, and they all look pretty fractured, indeed broken to me. But to what extent is it true in Iran that the tensions, which have always existed between different currents, different tendencies within the Islamic Revolution, to what extent is it true that this is causing governmental paralysis or even difficulties at all? What's the Iranian position on that?
Well, contrary to the narrative of the West, that Iran is this despotic regime, as they like to call it, where it's authoritarian and there are no alternative voices. In Iran, there's always debate and discussion. But in this case, the decision is made by the Supreme National Security Council, and a stamp of approval is given by the leader. The person that has been designated to take charge of the negotiations file is the Speaker of Parliament, the person who went to Pakistan to negotiate with Vance. So he has the authority, and he has the backing of the Supreme National Security Council.
Well, with all respect to you, as always, there remains. Unfortunately, I'm losing you, Professor. Can you still hear me?
Can you hear me now? Yes.
I can, yes. I just wanted to say, with all respect, the pattern or the picture does appear, at least to me, that there is a lack of clarity on the Iranian side on certain key aspects. It's not entirely clear to me that the Iranian government and its armed forces are going to extract a price from their neighboring treacherous regimes without whose participation the enormous damage that Iran has suffered could not have happened. These regimes are co-responsible for the terrible crimes that were committed over the last nearly 12 months and many years before that against Iran. Are you going to force them to pay for the damage done? I hear different stories about that. I think the delay has extended.
First, I just wanted to add something. And that is that, I was just going to say that in the claim that there are divisions in Tehran are that claim should be made about the United States, because during the negotiations in Islamabad, the Iranian delegation never made any phone calls to Tehran, but Vance was constantly making phone calls to Washington and to Netanyahu.
Yeah.
And Netanyahu himself said Vance reported to me, just like other leaders report to me from Washington every day, which is an extraordinary statement. So it's clear that Vance did not have a mandate, but the Iranian Speaker of Parliament did. But with regards to what you said, The Iranians have made the decision. The Strait of Hormuz will be controlled by Iran, and the ships that pass through will have to pay a fee. Now, whether friendly countries pay a smaller fee and unfriendly countries pay a bigger fee, these are decisions that will have to be made. But already fees are being paid, except for in the last few days since Trump said he will keep the siege in place. But fees have been paid during the past few weeks.
So when they say that they have a blockade, this is an act of war, as you well know. As a matter of law, a blockade is an act of war. So to what extent is there a ceasefire if one side is openly boasting that they're committing acts of war?
Well, that is, of course, one of the very extraordinary things about the West in general. They wage wars and then they complain about Iran controlling the Strait of Hormuz. I had a number of interviews with Western journalists, and they were claiming that Iran's control of the Strait of Hormuz is illegal. And I was saying to them, you should worry about the illegality of the war itself against Iran. But apparently that's not an issue for them. And so you're absolutely correct. The siege on Iranian ports is there to prevent Iran from importing food, medical supplies, medicine, or supplies for factories that produce medicine, and so on. Overwhelmingly, what comes in through the ports are for ordinary people. So obviously, Trump is targeting ordinary Iranians. But the problem is that Trump does not have a navy or a naval presence that is large enough to be able to impose that siege effectively. Now, whether that changes in the coming days or weeks, that's another issue. But the reality, George, is that every day that goes by, the global economic crisis becomes worse. Every day that goes by, this iceberg that we only see the tip of it is going to become more devastating and more deadly. And I don't know ultimately if Trump will restart the war in a few days or whether he will be seeking a way out, because it's Trump. And I have no ability in comprehending Trump. So
You're not a psychiatrist.
I cannot make any predictions. But exactly. And I'm not sure a psychiatrist can do that either with him. But I think that every day that goes by is going to get worse. So time is not on his side. Even if he brings in a third aircraft carrier and troops, the Iranians are also preparing themselves for war. And this time round, George, if Trump goes after Iran's critical infrastructure, meaning electricity, let's say, Iran is going to go after critical infrastructure in retaliation. Whether it's the Israeli regime or these Arab regimes in the Persian Gulf, the electrical power plants in the Persian Gulf, you know what the weather is going to be like in the Persian Gulf in 3, 4, 5 weeks from now. It will be hot and humid, and they will not be able to stay there. These countries would fall apart. Everyone will be forced to leave. So by engaging in such a war and striking Iranian electrical power plants, they will force Iran to retaliate. And that will bring an end to these regimes in the Persian Gulf.
So, what did we just witness? Honestly, to me, that didn't feel like an interview. It felt like a funeral for the old world order. George Galloway didn't pull a single punch in those final minutes, did he? He looked right at the camera and said the words that no one in DC is brave enough to whisper, Trump has already been defeated. Now, I know that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, but look at the board. While the floor leaders in Washington are out here posturing for the cameras and signing checks they can't cash, the reality on the ground has shifted. By chasing these wars of whim, by following the lobby interests, instead of the American people, the establishment didn't just stumble. They fell. They basically handed Iran the keys to the global economy. Controlling the Strait of Hormuz? That's not just a regional win. That is the ultimate checkmate. This isn't just some faraway squabble anymore. It's about the fact that if the lonesome reptiles in the capital are foolish enough to restart this war, they aren't going to win it. There is no victory at the end of that road. Instead, they are going to trigger a global economic depression that will hit every single one of us, right in our wallets, right in our homes for years, maybe even a decade. We're watching the death of an era in real time. You can see it in the panic in DC. You can see it in the way they're desperately trying to censor anyone who speaks the truth. They want you to believe the paper siege is working, but as we just saw, the tankers are still moving, the oil is still flowing, and the West is the one being left behind in the dust. The house of cards isn't just wobbling anymore, the wind is picking up, and the foundation is gone. This is why Floor Leader Insider exists. Because they aren't going to tell you the truth on the evening news. They're going to keep feeding you the script until the lights go out. But here, we're keeping the lights on. We're going to keep documenting every move, every betrayal, and every secret they try to bury. If you're ready to see through the smoke and mirrors, do me a favor, hit that like button right now and make sure you're subscribed. Your support is the only reason we can keep this platform independent and keep the truth coming. But before I sign off, I need to hear from you and I want you to be honest. Galloway says the game is already over and the era of Western hegemony is dead. Are we actually watching the final checkmate of the American economy? Or do you think there's a secret move left on the board that the insiders haven't played yet? Don't hold back, get in the comments, and let's start the conversation. Stay tuned, stay strong, and I'll see you in the next one.